there wearing suits. Anybody ever, most churches now, it's like come as you are, but anybody like went to a church before, maybe when you're growing up or a few years ago, that everybody just dressed up? Like that was the thing. You have somebody walk in shorts and flip-flops, they're just like, whoa, what's going on with this guy? All right, I grew up in a church like that, everybody dressed up, and eventually, like somebody just randomly would come in wearing like a t-shirt and jeans like I'm wearing right now, and people are like, how dare him? And then a few weeks later, they're like, oh, he looks really comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable than I do. And then I think that's how it happened. Like over time, people just started dressing more casual. And then you got people that just come like Jonathan. You don't even know what he put on. And but he walked into this church, and everybody was dressed up nice. And he knew he kind of stuck out, but he was like, hey, I feel like God sent me here, so I'm going to come here. After service, the pastor recognized him. You could see him like he stuck out like a sore thumb. The pastor went to him, and some people just laugh. I think I just tell so many jokes, people just laugh at whatever. This is serious business, Ruth. He came up to him, he talked to him, he goes, hey man, what's your name? Hey, my name's Robert. Okay, Robert, we're so glad we're here. Listen, can you do me a favor? Do you plan on coming back next week? Yeah, I plan on coming back next week. Can you do me a favor? This week, can you pray and ask God what you should wear to church? Then Robert said, yeah, sure, Pastor, I can do that. Very next Sunday, Robert walks into that church wearing the exact same clothes. Possibly never took them off, possibly never bathed, possibly just walked in. The pastor noticed it right away. So after service, he walked up to him and go, hey, Robert, I'm glad you came back. You remember what I asked you to do last week? Yeah, Pastor, I remember. So did you ask God what you should wear to church? He goes, yeah, I sure did. I asked God what I should wear to church. What did he say? God said he's never been to your church. He don't know. So that's not a true story that I know of. I heard someone else tell the joke, and I was like, oh, I'm going to tell it this Sunday because it kind of goes with the message. But, a lot of times, it's easy to judge somebody by appearance, isn't it? It's easy to judge somebody, even from like first conversation with them. A lot of times, like how just as human, to start making just starting thinking and how that person is, even though we know very little about it. So, and a lot of times it will become about, okay, hey, all of us, we're all wearing jeans. And all those people were wearing shorts. And it happens like without even thinking about it. All the people wearing jeans kind of get together. Like, whoa, man, I like your jeans. Yeah, Levi's, cool. And then all the people wearing shorts get together. It's like, yeah, man, we're going to go surfing afterwards. Or these are also these double-S swim trunks. I don't know. I was like, they kind of look like boxer shorts. You should wear something else, But you kind of gravitate to that, and then it's just easy to kind of then be like, them and us. Or, oh man, they just don't look like they fit in with our crowd. Oh, I heard them out there say a couple of curse words, and yeah, Fairlawn just might not be the place for you. And we just quickly start judging that. And by the way, if you were out there and you said a couple curse words, welcome home. So we hopefully you'll cut down on that a little bit later, but we still welcome you. We're happy to be here. But it's easy. It's so easy to start setting people aside and then start kind of putting this, hey, this church is for me. It's not really for them. If you want a church, you need to go to the church down the street or downtown, or we have a couple here. They drive. There may be more than one, but I know of them. They drive from Melbourne all the way here every Wednesday and every Sunday for service. And they just, when they first came here, they're like, we just knew we were home. And that's awesome. I love hearing that. But I mean, how about if we would have been like, well, y'all are from Melbourne? We heard about those Melbourne people. Yeah. Or if you're from Melbourne, you could be like, yeah, we heard about those people in Fort Pierce. Truthfully, I just thought about this. They may be thinking that this is like their mission field. They're coming like, God sent us to Fort Pierce. So I don't watch a lot of commercials, but I did see this commercial the other day, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so good, and then when I was writing the message, I was like, this was perfect. I need to show this commercial. So anybody know what Tubi is? Tubi is like free streaming TV. It's kind of like Netflix, but it's free. So this is a commercial from Tubi. Can we go ahead and show that?
Tubi is proud to be free for small business owners, the lifeblood of our communities, upholding the American dream. But Tubi's also free for thugs and cronies who shake down small businesses for money, then spend it on their girlfriends, even though they have wives. Because Tubi is free for everyone, and we mean everyone.
I thought it was so clever. I love like when they're really clever commercials. I was like, man, that goes for it. Because like a lot of times we're like, oh, I heard about your past. I heard about, you just got out of Rock Road. You might need to wait a couple months before you come to Farallon. You know? And so, but it's easy to get like that. We're like, okay, this thing is for me. This gospel thing's for me. And it may be for you. I'm not saying that, just not here for you, like right now, you know. And we do it a lot of times without even realizing it, without even thinking. Oh, what, you think that way? That's how you think? Well, we don't think that way at Farallon. I go, yeah, there are people that think that way. They just so afraid to say it. Find somebody that's going to say it. But we can get like has anybody ever been the victim of something like that? Has anybody ever been on the giving end of that? Yeah, and admit it? Yeah, for sure. So, the title of my message, and I was going back and forth on what to name this. And I didn't decide until late afternoon last night, to call it this. But the title of my message is, this may get a little political. Now, if you know me, you know, if it's ever been brought up in a conversation, I do not do political talk. I don't talk about politics. Now, say, oh, well, Jimmy just don't like politics. That's not true. I actually love politics. Back when I was a teenager, I was like, I'm going to go into politics. I remember telling my grandmother, I am going to be the youngest mayor of Fort Pierce. Didn't quite work out that way. But it's not that I don't like it. If I allow myself, I'll take a deep dive into it. So it's not that I don't like it. But about 4 years ago, I realized how passionate people can get about political issues and about politics, especially during election time. And I made a decision that I'm not going to share or talk about who I'm voting for or any area or avenue that I would consider political. Why? Because that may get in the way of me sharing Jesus to somebody. Because if somebody thinks differently, or somebody says, "Oh, I'm voting for so and so," or "I'm what?" I mean, there are families that have not talked to each other for years because of a political issue. And so now, what has happened though, with that, because I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get into confrontation. I want to be able. My goal in life, my purpose is to share Jesus with everybody that He allows me to, that He opens the door for that. And a lot of times, if I start doing that, I may just shut the door before it open it. That don't mean don't think anybody else should talk about politics, or that I get upset if someone's talking about politics. That's my own thing. Now, I've had some people that don't agree with it, and they've done it in a loving and sweet way, and they're just like, and it's just like, okay, but that's you and this me. But I've had this, people getting plumb mad at me because I won't talk about politics. I will have, and it's not just here. It's at the fire department. It's like different, like not just in the church world. And people will get so upset, like, we need to know where you stand. Like, I stand with Jesus. No. All right. Well, I need to know who you're going to vote for. Why? Like, well, I need to know if I want to be your friend or not. Like, I'll tell you this. My wife don't even know who I voted for. I've already voted. But she don't know. Like, Julie asked me, and I was like, I've made the stand that I'm not going to tell anybody. She's like, but I'm your wife. Now, she could probably do a pretty educated guess, but I'm like, no, because if somebody asks if I've told anybody, then I have to say yes, so I'm not even going to tell you. And we're still not talking. But I've made that decision. But I've had people get so upset. I've had people come to me and say, Pastor, this is what we need to do. We need you to get up there, and you need to ask everybody in the congregation. If you're Republican, raise your hand. Everybody that do not raise your hand. I'm telling you a story. Anybody that don't raise their hand, or anybody that is a Democrat, we need to go to them. We need to tell them, and give them the opportunity. We don't want to kick them out. Give them the opportunity. They got a week to change their political stance. I am not making this up. Political stance. And if they don't do it, if they don't come back the following week and they change their political group to Republican, they need to leave. Like, what? And my answer was like, oh, well, how? I thought I'd use some logic, and I'd be like, how about people that are independent? And they're like, independent's okay. I was like, we can't do that. And like, if we don't do that, then I don't think I can stay here. You're probably going to end up leaving anyways. So, I mean, it's not going to happen. We are not going to do that. But people get so passionate about it, and I understand, and I don't get mad, but people get so passionate about that, and it will be like their political, where they align politically, and their stance with that becomes more important to them, stands out in front of Jesus. And I'll tell you this, my number one goal is to tell people that I come in contact with, let them know what radically and dramatically changed my life, and that's a relationship with Jesus. And nothing's going to come before that. That's my number one goal, because that's changed my life, and I've seen the relationship with Jesus change so many, and continuing to change those things. Way more important whether that I can persuade you to vote for who I voted for. Do it. And do I think you should vote? Yeah, I do. I think you should. But you also have the right not to. And you have the freedom to voice it. You have the freedom to go to the polls. And you have the freedom not to. And that's your decision. But here at Fairlawn, and I love that, just watching it happen, of this just becoming a diverse group of people, and God just putting us all together and do life together. Do we always agree? Absolutely not. What family does agree on everything? Not the Lloyds. If your family does, you got to tell me the secret, because I need help getting Julie to think like me. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories that I think goes along with this message. This may get a little political, and if you are one of the people that you're like, man, Jimmy doesn't talk about that, so how's this gonna work out? Has he changed his mind? Is he gonna talk about it? I'm not gonna tell you what part of this message. By the way, I haven't started my message yet, so if you'd already started your timer, restart it. But at some point, there's gonna be a little political stuff in this, and I'm not gonna tell you when. You'll just have to catch it, so you'll have to stay awake, Cece, for it. So the first person I want to tell you about is this guy named Mephibosheth. Is any Mephibosheths here today? None. I can't believe it. There was like 3 of them at first service. Anybody know who Mephibosheth is? Who's Mephibosheth, JD? Okay. Son of who? Yes. Very good. He is Jonathan's son. Now, who knows who Jonathan is? No, his dad. Yeah. Keep up. Jonathan is that dad of Mephibosheth, but his dad is King Saul, the first king of Israel. King Saul, who was ordained, anointed by God, then he got mixed up in this thing, and he was like, you know what? Actually, maybe this isn't God. This is maybe Saul. And he started doing his own thing and going his own way and got a little arrogant. And God said, you know what? I'm going to lift my anointing from you, and the next king is going to be David, who no relation to Saul. So Mephibosheth is Saul and Jonathan's, he's Saul's grandson, Jonathan's son. Now, the Israelites, King Saul is still the king. The Israelites are in war. This is going to absolutely shock you. They are in war with this group called the Philistines. It seems like the whole Old Testament, the Israelites are in war with the Philistines. This war is a little different because in this war, Jonathan dies. He gets killed by the Philistines. And then shortly after, Saul gets wounded very badly. And Saul's in so much pain, he looks at his armor bearer and goes, you just got to kill me. And the armor bearer goes, I ain't killing you. I ain't not killing the king. I know what they'll do to me. So because his armor bearer wouldn't kill him, King Saul fell on his sword and killed himself. So now you have the king, you have King Saul, and his son Jonathan are dead. This is how I picture it went down in my mind. One of the soldiers of the Israelites sees Jonathan's dead. I got to go tell King Saul. King Saul's dead. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Palace. I got to go to the palace. I got to go to the palace. And he ran. Gets to the palace. Papa, papa. That's what I believe that their calling would be if there's an emergency. It has to be set apart. Papa, papa. Hey, the king and the next in line to take the throne is dead. And they are on their way here. We got to get up on out of here. Let's go. Now, at this time, Mephibosheth is 5 years old. Can you just picture it? Sweet little Mephibosheth there playing with his rattle. He's just, he's 5. He ain't playing with a rattle. I don't know that. But he's there. He's on his iPhone. And he has a nanny. Why does he have a nanny? Because the king, they have money. And let's just face it, all of us parents, if we had the money, we would hire one for our kids. We don't want to raise them. We want nannies, right? This nanny, her name is Susie in my head. Not in the Bible. In my head, her name is Susie. Don't say her name, but her name is Susie. She sees young Mephibosheth, 5-year-old Mephibosheth. He is playing. He has no idea of what's going on, no idea if there's an emergency, that there's trouble. Just innocent Mephibosheth. She runs. She does her job. She grabs him to protect him. She picks him up in her arms, and she starts to go down the stairs. And when she starts to go down the stairs, she trips and she falls, dropping Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth gets injured. He becomes paralyzed at the age of 5 years old from the waist down. He has no use of his legs. By the way, because of something that wasn't his fault. How many of you faced trouble, you've had damage, you've had terrible things happen, no fault of your own, but because of somebody else? And you're like, man, I can't believe it if it wasn't for them. Now, there's a lot of us, probably most of us, we face the consequences of just our own stupid decisions. But there are times when it's not because of something we did, it's because of something somebody else did. Now, years later, Mephibosheth is a grown man, but he's still kind of in hiding. He has no reason to be out in public. David is now the king of Israel. And we're going to go to 2 Samuel chapter 9. And we're going to start with verse 1, where we're going to pick up this story. It says, one day, David asked, is anyone in Saul's family still alive? Anyone who I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Why? Because when Jonathan and David were younger, and they were best friends, Jonathan's like, yo, David, I know you're going to be the next king. I know I'm not going to get the throne. It's going to be you, and I'm stoked for you. I'm happy. I'm so happy for you, but I just need a favor. He's like, yeah, boy, anything. You're my boy. What do you need? And he's like, I just show favor to anybody in my family. If you can just show favor. Yeah, man, I got you. I got you. So he remembers this. And he's like, is there anybody that I can show kindness to? Anybody left in Saul's family? And they're like, man, I don't know, David. I didn't really hang out with Saul's family. And there's like, oh, yeah, there's this dude named Ziba. Cool name, right? Ziba. His name's Ziba. He worked for Saul, and he works for me. Go get him. So they went and got Ziba. It says, verse 2, he summoned a man named Ziba, who had been one of Saul's servants. Are you Ziba, the king asked? Yes, sir, I am, Ziba replied. The king then asked him, is anyone still alive from Saul's family? If so, I want to show God's kindness to them. Ziba replied, yes, one of Jonathan's sons is still alive. He is crippled in both feet. I want to point out something to you. This dude Ziba, when it was brought up about Mephibosheth, he didn't call him by name. What did he call him by? By his damaged area, by the place where he was injured. And you may be here today, and you have been labeled by an area that has been damaged, or you have been labeled by what's wrong or what people think is wrong with you. Now, check this out. Ziba said, yeah, he's crippled on both feet. Verse 4. This is David. Where is he, the king asked. In Lodabar, Ziba told him, at the home of Machir, son of Amiel. Notice this. Ziba related to what is wrong with Mephibosheth. The king's response isn't, oh, yeah, I know that boy. Let me ask you, Ziba. He still smoking a little bit? Huh? He still steal every now and then? I heard that about him. Hey, that guy you're talking about, I think I heard about him. Did he still tell those lies like he used to tell? I remember people talking about that. He served his probation yet? Or he's on probation? Does he still eat with his mouth open? I can't have him here. The king doesn't ask any of those questions. All he says is, go get him. Go. Bring him here. He sends for him. Now, he sends for him. Mephibosheth was living in a town called Lodabar. Anybody recently take a vacation to Lodabar? You probably wouldn't want to. Because Lodabar stands for, the meaning of Lodabar is the land of nothing. The land of nothing. I know what you're thinking. Oh, yeah, that's Fort Pierce. No. The land of nothing. Now, this is how I picture that going down. Our boy Phoebe is sitting in Lodabar in Machir's house, and he's sitting there. He has his headphones on. He's just jamming to some tunes from Michael Jackson. And I'm a smooth criminal. And he's just going. And because it always sounds better in your mind than it does out loud, especially when you got headphones on. You're like, dude, I'm nailing it. I need to call John to be on the praise team. He's sitting there just hanging out, minding his own business. All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. Micaiah walks in, says, yo, Phoebe, the king's guards are here for you. What do you think's going on in Mephibosheth's mind? Because here's the thing. What normally would happen is when a new king would get the throne and it wasn't blood relation, he would have everybody in that other king's bloodline killed. Mephibosheth's the only one left. No doubt he thought, they come here to kill me. They found me here in Lodabar. He's like, no, man, no, you got to hide me. You got to hide me. Don't tell him I'm in here. By the way, you make me that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. No, forget it, I got to hide. The guards walk in. Are you Mephibosheth? Yeah. That's a terrible name. Come with us. They pick him up. They bring him to the king. What happens when he gets to the king? 2 Samuel 9, 5-8. It says, so David sent for him and brought him from Micaiah's home. His name was Mephibosheth. He was Jonathan's son and Saul's grandson. When he came to David, he bowed low to the ground in deep respect. David says, greeting Mephibosheth. Notice how the king addresses him. He doesn't address him by his area of weakness. He doesn't address him by what's wrong with him. He addresses him by his name. Amen. Can I tell you this? You have a heavenly Father today. He is not addressing you by all the bad things you've done. He's addressing you by your name. Mephibosheth replied, I am your servant. Don't be afraid, David said. I intend to show kindness to you because my promise to your father Jonathan. I will give you all the property that once belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will eat here with me at the king's table. Now that was a big deal. Because, is that my microphone? Yeah. All of a sudden just doing that out of nowhere? It was doing it the whole time? Tell me. They won't hear me on the mic. It's on now, right? I'm going to put on my bell, maybe. See, some preachers would just be like, that's a sign from God that I just need to stop talking. Not your boy. No, I'm going to finish this thing. He sat at the king's table. Now, the people that sat at the king's table was the king's family. That's it. So King David's saying, you're going to be like my son. You're going to sit at the table. Now, this is the thing I know about the king's table. King's table had fancy plates, fancy dishes, utensils, all of that, but every king's table had a tablecloth. And when Mephibosheth would go and sit at that table, remind me, where were the area that he was dancing? In his legs. So when he sat there, it went off again. I had to get a handheld. When he sat there, that tablecloth covered what was wrong with him. Can I tell you this? In this story, this is not just a story about something that happened back then, some people way back. This is a story about you. I don't think they're trying to fix it. This is it's working out. I think I just saw John ran back there. Maybe. Do I just need to switch to a handheld? All right. How about now? This is working. This is a story about you and a story about me because in this story, King David represents Jesus, and Mephibosheth represents you and me. Mephibosheth represents all that people that are outcast, all the people that are imperfect. Any imperfect people here? He represents all those that have been marginalized, all those that have been talked about, all those that have been gossiped about, all those that have went through things that, well, they probably shouldn't have gone through. And what this story is about, Jesus inviting you and me, inviting us to his table. And when we pull up to his table, he covers those things. You no longer see those things where we've messed up. No longer see those things where we're damaged. No, see those things. He's saying, I'm not going to call you by what's wrong with you, but I'm going to call you by name. I think, is it still doing it? John, can I just switch to a handheld? I don't know where he went. He left. He's like, I'm out of here. Yep, I'm gone. Yeah, I think so. It's cutting out again, right? It's still doing it? I can switch to a handheld. No, I'd rather switch to a handheld than that. Than a good mic. It's crazy. All right. I can't not move around. I am not a big fan of these handhelds. All right. Next story. Found in Luke chapter 14. Now, by the way, can I just go back for a second? I looked this up this morning. Because I was thinking, what does Mephibosheth mean? And I went back, I was like, nah, I'm not going to look that up. And then I was like, how about if somebody asked me, hey, do you know what Mephibosheth means? And I'm like, I don't know. And so maybe I need to look it up. I'm so glad I did, because you know what it means? Exterminator of Shame. And I thought, that's so awesome, because so many of us have walked through those doors and we got shame. We're like, man, do they know about this? Do they know about that? And Jesus is saying, it don't matter. Come here, come sit at my table. I don't see you by your shame. Your shame is not of God. He's saying you don't have to worry about that anymore. Luke 14, we got Jesus. He's eating with the Pharisees in this story. Now, I think that's really cool, because a lot of times we kind of see Jesus as like bashing the Pharisees, like he's the one he like throws down some bars and drops the mic and walks away. Like, yeah, you really told them. But this shows like Jesus, he associated with those that were outcasts, but he also associated with the Pharisees and with the religious leaders. He was eating at their table. And he was at this party, this dinner party with the Pharisees. And Jesus is just hanging out, and he noticed something strange going on. Everybody at this party were fighting over position. They were all fighting to sit by the host. They were like, I need to get in that seat. I need to be in the right hand seat of the host. Like, people need to know I'm a big deal. And Jesus saw this going on. And he's like, man, this is kind of messed up. And he says, hey, because Jesus is kind of like the guy that you invite to the party, but you're kind of like, you don't know what he's going to say. And then you're like trying to figure out, what friends do I invite, And so Jesus goes, he just speaks up and he says, those with lofty opinions, they raise themselves up. But those with modest opinions about themselves, they humble themselves. And they're going to be raised up before all. Then he looks at the host. And he says, I appreciate you inviting me to this little dinner party, and I look around, and it seems like you know everybody. So I assume you invited all your friends and your family. That's cool. But you know who you should have invited? You should have invited those that they can't repay you. You should have invited those that they would never be able to invite you to a dinner party. It doesn't matter if they spoke highly of this. You should have invited those people that don't normally get invited to dinner parties. That's who you should have invited. And when you do that, great things will happen to you in this life. A lot of times we talk about, and if I do this, if I do all these good things, we kind of picture God having a scoreboard up there, and he's like, yep, Karen, another check mark. Yep, all right. Susan, check mark. Like every check mark's another crown, another diamond in her crown, But he's saying, if you do this, if you reach out and you associate and you have a relationship with those that most people don't want to have a relationship with, you will have great things happen in your life now. Now. And then in the kingdom of heaven, you'll get full reward. Now, there's always this one guy at every party. He overhears Jesus talking about this. And we find what he says in Luke chapter 14, verse 15. He heard this and he said, this is what he said. I hear you, Jesus. Someday, God will have a big kingdom feast. And how happy and privileged will be the ones that get to share in that joy. I just picture him like having that little fake smile. Like, what's so bad about that? But what he was saying, because that time, the people that they felt like was only going to get into the kingdom of heaven was people like them. So he was saying one day, God's going to have a big feast. He's going to invite all of us orthodox, obedient, religious people. And we don't got to worry about all the rest of them. Jesus replied with this parable. A man invited to join him. Hold on, I got to make sure I'm at the right place. Yeah. Jesus replied with this parable. A man invited many to join him in a great feast. When the day for the feast arrived, the host instructed his servant to notify all the invited guests and tell them, come, for everything is now ready for you. But one by one, all made excuses. Pretty much I'm going like all of the people like on the A-list, all those people that are wealthy, all those people, Elon Musk, you can invite him to the party. Jeff Bezos, yeah, invite him. People, just invite them to the party. But one by one, they kept saying, they made excuses, said they couldn't come. One said, I can't come, I just bought some property, and I have to go look it over. Just some words of advice, never buy property that you haven't looked at yet. Another one said, please accept my regrets, for I purchased 5 teams of oxen, and I need to make sure they can pull the plow. Everybody knows you always test drive the oxen first. Make sure they can pull your plow before you buy them. Come on. Another one said, I can't come because I just got married. Fair enough. No further explanation needed. The servant reported back to the host and told him of all their excuses. The master became angry and said to his servant, go at once throughout the city and invite anyone you find, the poor, the blind, the disabled, the hurting, and the lonely. Invite them to my banquet. When the servant returned to his master, he said, sir, I have done what you asked, but there's still room for more. So the master told him, all right, go out, and this time bring all back with you. Everybody. Persuade the beggars on the street, the outcasts, the homeless. Insist that they come in and enjoy the feast so my house will be full. See, you may have walked in here, and you're thinking, man, you're holding on to all that stuff that you've done, all that past, what people are saying about you. And you're like, man, I don't have much value. But I'm telling you, there's somebody, thank God, they think differently of you than you think of yourself. See, maybe to some they were nobody, but to the king, they were somebody. And I'm going to ask you this. Because you may be like, that's me. Yeah, but nobody wants to invite me to their house. That's right. I hope everybody's getting this because I heard some of the stuff you've been saying about me. But I'm going to ask you this. Who are you inviting to your table? How about the people you've been like, ugh, yeah, you just kind of sketchy. Oh, yeah, I don't know. And this isn't like saying that, hey, you need to invite them to your house, let them stay a few days. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we need to get in relationship with people, not be afraid to get in relationship with people that other people don't want to be in relationship with. Because God may just be setting us up for something.
I say this, we may need to get to a place where we're a little uncomfortable talking to who we're talking about to, and knowing that relationship. Can I just say this? I'm not going to talk about the Good Samaritan, but the Good Samaritan would have never been saved if people didn't walk down streets that other people got beat up on. So when we start not walking down those streets, we're going to stop being able to reach those people. The last story, and Heath, you can come up here and play lovely behind me. There's this preacher, his name's Shane Claiborne, radical, crazy guy that's on fire for Jesus. He does crazy, a big in homeless ministry. He goes out and he lives in Philadelphia, and he has a home, but he goes out and he'll sleep on the benches, and he's called to reach those that are homeless. And in Philadelphia, 10 years ago, they passed this law, and they passed this law that it was illegal. It was a felony to feed the homeless. And they're like, what are we going to do? And Shane was like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to feed them. And this little lady, she's 70 years old. She was like, listen, 10 years ago, God told me to start making a casserole every morning. And every day at 5 o'clock, I take it down there and I give it to somebody. So unless God tells me to stop making casseroles, I'm going to listen to him before I listen to the mayor. So they continued to feed them. You know what? They got arrested. And when they were there, it went all the way to federal court. The prosecutor was wanting them to get jail time. There was a maximum sentence of 10 years, and they were pushing for 10 years for feeding the homeless. Went to federal court. Shane wore this shirt that, if I can find it, I'm going to get it. It says, Jesus was a homeless man. The judge saw that shirt and he goes, sir, what does your shirt say? That Jesus was a homeless man? He goes, I didn't know that. Why do you say that? He said, Jesus said the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And he starts quoting that, and the judge goes, I think you guys just might have a chance. Took 5 minutes. The judge says, hey, that's against their religious freedom. You can't stop them from feeding the homeless. Church he was pastoring at, they made a decision. They said, man, this is blowing up, this homeless ministry, so we're going to turn our sanctuary into a homeless shelter. And the city of Philadelphia, it's funny, the city of brotherly love, they said, you can't do that. And they came in and said, you guys can't be a shelter. You don't have the right things in place to be a shelter. And you wouldn't be able to because you're not zoned right. And there's just no way you're going to have to tell everybody to leave. The board got together and they started thinking about it. They went to the city officials and goes, you know what, you're right. We respect the laws, and you're right, we can't operate as a shelter. I said, but you know what, we're a very charismatic church, and in charismatic churches, they have these things called revivals. They said, we are going to, starting tonight, we're going to have a revival. It's going to start at 8 o'clock this evening, and it's going to go till 9 o'clock in the morning. And this revival is going to go on every day of the week. We have no end time for this revival. We believe it's going to be a great move of God. Got up there at 8 o'clock that night, gets up there, they have service, do a couple worship songs, gets up there, he does a message, and he says, all right, guys, it's 10 o'clock at night. It's almost 10 o'clock. We are going to continue with the service, but the rest of the service is going to be a meditation time. And this is what we're going to do. Now, we're going to turn down the lights. We're going to play the music really lightly. And what we want you to do is meditate. Listen, guys, I know we don't know how everybody meditates, so we ask you during this time, please respect people's boundaries and let them meditate the way that they want to meditate. And then about 9 a.m., we're going to stop with the meditation time, and our service will end, and we'll start again at 8 p.m. the next evening. And that revival is still going on today. And when I was listening to him tell this story, he goes, you know what? That every time I read the Bible, I realize, hey, this is a gospel of hospitality. This is a gospel of saying, how do you treat the outsider? And then he goes on to go, last time I checked, John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world. It's not just America. Because people are going, oh, you got people like illegal aliens there. You got immigrants there. We need to know who they are. He's like, last time I checked, God so loved the world. And he goes, now we're going to continue having this revival. Matthew 9 through 13 says, as Jesus left Capernaum, he came upon a tax collecting station where a Jewish man named Matthew was collecting taxes for the Romans. Jesus says, come follow me. Jesus said to him. Immediately, Matthew jumped up and began to follow Jesus. Jesus went to Matthew's house and made himself at home. By the way, it seems like Jesus kind of does this a lot. He did it with Peter. He's just like, hey, come follow me. Where do you live? Let's go. Let's go to your house. I'll follow you. He just made himself at home. Many other tax collectors and outcasts of society were invited to eat with Jesus and his disciples. By the way, you notice through the gospel that Jesus seems to just attract those that other people don't want to be around with or don't want to associate with. Jesus seems to just like the outsiders just drawn to Jesus. I don't know about if it's just me, but I feel like when we read about the life of Jesus, that's supposed to be a life that we are supposed to imitate. And if we are imitating that, we should be drawing the same people that Jesus drew by our actions. Verse 11. When those known as the Pharisees saw what was happening, they were indignant and kept asking Jesus' disciples, why would your master dine with such lowlifes? When Jesus overheard this, he spoke up and said, healthy people don't need to see a doctor, but the sick will go for treatment. And then he added, now you should go and study the meaning of the verse. I want you to show mercy, not just offer me sacrifice. For I have come to invite the outcast of society and sinners, not those who think they are already on the right path. Notice he says already on the right path. Anybody here? They're like, yeah, I'm already on the right path. Anybody's like, yeah, Farallon's lucky to have me because I'm so perfect. I want to get shirts for like our welcome team that says no perfect people allowed. Jesus wasn't afraid to sit at their table, and he wasn't afraid to invite people to sit at his table. And I'm just going to say this, like, we're thinking like, okay, tax collector, like it'd be like somebody working for the IRS. Like, hey, he might be a good friend to have, you know? That's not how they thought of tax collectors. Tax collectors were those that where they were considered traitors. They worked for the Roman government. And they collected money from their fellow Jewish people. And a lot of times they would just make up taxes. And whatever, they would have to give the Roman government a certain amount, but how they made their pay is they would collect more. So people didn't want anything to do with the tax collectors. And Jesus looked at Matthew and said, that's exactly who I want on my team. Now, all right, I'm just going to tell you guys, it's getting late. You may be like, it's time to be over. Like, I don't have a, like when we're going to get to the political stuff, this is it. Get ready, Granny. This is it. Luke chapter 6, verse 13 and 16. Jesus is putting his team together. He's putting his posse together. It says at daybreak, he called together all his followers, because Jesus had other followers, just the 12 disciples, and selected 12 from among them. And he appointed them to be his apostles. Quickly, without looking at it, anybody able to name all 12 apostles? Y'all could have just raised your hand because I wasn't even going to ask. I don't got time for that. Missed your opportunity. Here are the names. Simon, whom he named Peter. Andrew, Peter's brother. Jacob, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, the other Jacob. By the way, Jacob and James, the same. This is the one I want you to notice. Simon, known as a fiery political zealot. Zealot. What is it? What is it? Zealot? Zealot, I'll go with that. What's a zealot? Someone that's passionate? Yeah, you're cheating. You were here. You got that part in the first service. Zealots are a political party. There's some believe that, you know, that guy that they let loose, Pilate let loose instead of Jesus, Barabbas? People believe that he was possibly a part of that political party. They weren't just like, oh yeah, we're going to vote for so-and-so. Let's get Caesar out of there. You know, no. They were radical. They were like into guerrilla warfare. There are known reports of zealots taking, like, tax collectors, traitors. Oh, they're walking behind this building. Let's grab them. And they'd grab them, and they'd split their throats. Like, they were not afraid of confrontation. And Jesus looked at Simon. Zealot says, I think he needs to be a part of my team. Check this out. You got somebody that was a tax collector, a traitor, worked for the Roman government. And you had somebody, we don't know a whole lot about Simon, but we can read a lot about that political party. And we know this: once a tax collector, always a tax collector. Like, you're not going to get forgiven from that. You know, you're going to have to ask forgiveness with your life. And you had these two people on opposite ends. You had, like, Matthew's the guy that, you don't want to invite him to your house because he might notice, oh, you got an extra set of dishes, I see that. Yeah, we're going to need to audit you. You know? And then you got, Simon's the guy, you don't want to invite to your house because he's like the guy that, and we all know one of them, and if you don't, it's probably you. The one that's takes those political conversations a little too far. And they're together on the same team. This is what I get out of that. When Jesus decided to put the 12 people that is closest to him, the people that traveled with him, the people that go out and minister with him, the people that represent him, he sought out diversity. I can picture it at the Last Supper. At the Last Supper, Matthew's there and he's counting the breadsticks. And Peter's like, what are you doing, Matthew? He's like, I'm counting the breadsticks. I got to make sure we're not over budget. These are Olive Garden breadsticks. They are expensive. I told them we needed to get Aldi breadsticks. We were way over budget. Simon is the one, he's like, yeah, I need you to sign this petition. We need to get this amendment on the ballot. We need to go. I just need to sign this. Don't worry. Don't worry, Don. I already got your name here because I knew you were going to sign anyways. But I just need you to sign this. I need everybody to sign this petition. We need to get this on the ballot. Let's go. Two separate people. And Jesus saw that. No wonder the disciples were always arguing. You know? Jesus was like, I knew this was going to happen. No. Jesus sought out diversity. I would say this. If Jesus sought out diversity when he put his team together, shouldn't we kind of maybe be okay with people that we're sharing the gospel with us and telling people about Jesus that maybe in this area they think a little different? Maybe their background's a little different. Yeah. I mean, maybe we shouldn't seek out a church full of just all Republicans or all Democrats. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we need to surround ourselves with people that think a little different than us. Because I already know what Jimmy Lloyd's thinking. I need people to say, all right, Pastor Jimmy, it's probably not a good idea to stack 10 chairs on each other and try to change that flag. We might need to get the proper equipment. There's a ladder right there. Yeah, I need people like that because I want to stay alive. I need you, and we need each other, and we need people that may think a little bit different, because that's what Jesus wanted on his team. You remember those name tags you got? Those name tags. Y'all put your name on it? Everybody? You ran out of them? All right, we can get you some more. We'll get some more if you want more. Those that have them, have your name on it, and that's for you to take as a reminder. Hey, you have been invited to the table. And you don't need to worry about all those things that maybe people think's wrong with you, or all those things that happened in your past, and all those things, and it's like, man, they're going to see me sitting at Jesus' table, and they know that, man, I used to do this. I don't even know if I said used to. Like, I did it like 10 minutes ago. I don't plan on doing it anymore, but when you sit at his table, his grace covers those areas. And then maybe once we're at that table, maybe we should invite others to that same table. And then maybe that person sitting next to you at that table that don't think exactly like you think, and maybe a little different, and no way right now is their shoes and their shirt matching. But maybe, just maybe, they're a blessing to your life, not a curse. And maybe God just thought enough of you to put them in your life, and thought enough of them to put you in their life. Maybe God just set all this up. And maybe we're all supposed to sit at this table together. And maybe we're all supposed to be inviting other people to sit at this table together. So may you, my friends and family, may you experience the great blessings of inviting those who aren't able to repay you to your table. And may you come to experience the fullness and the love and the acceptance of sitting at the King's table. Grace and peace. I love you.